Hello guys, and welcome to the third and final video of this summer series. And this is the second take of this video, and it's the first time I had to do a second take on one of these videos, but shit happens. I forgot to switch over to my screen, so you had only my voice in the previous version. So now I make sure that I am already switched to my screen, so we can go into it. So what are we looking at? I put together a database and of career stats, and it was interesting database that I can use it also in future years, and decided to look at how much each of our teams has depended on their own draftees in terms of contribution percentage for scoring and for grid. And this is what we will be looking at for most of the video, but before that we look at the league-wide level and how do we compare to the NHL. And of course this is league-wide how much of the percentage of scoring and grid, and for scoring I have used here everywhere the 2 goals plus assist category, as it's a close proxy for points, and the grids category is just the sum of the penalty minutes, blocks and hits. And you see here that the benchmark pretty much by the NHL is they draft around 92% of their scoring is found in the draft, and around 87% of the grid is by drafted players. Of course, what we have managed to achieve is gradually increase our draft share percentage as a league, because most of the contribution in the beginning of the league was by veteran players, and once those veterans like the Crosbys and Ovechkins and Patrick Kanes of the world, once they retire, we will be able to compare our benchmark to the NHL. But what we can see is that we are also drafting more for skill and scoring, and the gap is even bigger than the NHL. So basically we're more inclined towards skill or scoring drafting. But this is for the skaters, but look at how does it look for the goalies. We are actually already better than the NHL in terms of finding goalie points. So the goalie points is the goalie stat I have used for this analysis in terms of goalie performance. And the last 2 years we have already been better than the NHL GMs in finding the goalies through the draft. So well done to us. And of course we have a lot of knowledgeable GMs here, and the goaltending topic is always one of the hotly debated ones in terms of prospects. So this is something that we have done well. And the other reason for me that we have managed to already reach the NHL level is that there are very few veteran goalies still playing in the NHL that were around as veterans in 2012. And this brings us to our trivia question for this video. Is there are only 5 goalies remaining in the NHL that were not prospects in 2012, and all of them are also, as far as I know, slated to play also in the coming 24-25 season. So the question is, how many of them can you name? And I will put your answers in the league chat and we can discuss, and I will give you the answers, or probably you guess all of them, but we can discuss it in the chat. So that's about the big picture. So now we'll be looking at each of our teams, and I haven't ordered this in terms of divisions or alphabetically, but instead we'll go by the percentage of average percentage of draftees contribution for each of our teams, going from the lowest to the highest. And I've put together and named some groups, and like the first group I've named the Water Prospects group, and we start here with the millionaires and Jay's team. He He's kind of famous for trading away his draft picks, and as you see here the graph, and you see such a graph for each of the teams, and basically it shows the 3 lines. The blue line is the goalie contribution. As you can see, on the upper right there is the legend. The blue line is the goalie per contribution. The green is the scoring, and the red is the grit. And the dashed yellow line is the regular standings position by the team in each of the seasons. So you see that despite having several years with 0 contributions from his own draft picks, Jay has managed to be on above average team for most of the league's existence. So it's one of the things I will, so to say, summarize and like a spoiler alert of the whole exercise, that I haven't found any significant relevance between success in the league and relying on your own draftees, but I can elaborate on this more towards the end of the video. And you see that in the last 2 seasons, Jay has seen an uptick in his draftees percentage, and based on Connor Bedard and Fantilli and a guy like Sam Reinhart, who is his own draft pick. And next is Jay's best friend Kevin and the Hearst Lumberjacks. So they are the next team from going from the bottom towards the top in terms of percentage. They also have a very low percentage of own goalies that they have used, and in fact the only goalie with some more than handful of games is Garrett Sparks, so not some name you would have guessed. And the main contributors in terms of skaters for the Lumberjacks, their own draft picks, have been Mark Scheifele and more recently Cole Caulfield. And you see that again, despite not overly relying on their own draft picks, this franchise has had several successful seasons. So again, no direct correlation. Next are the Montreal Wanderers team, and you see here the main thing you can see in the graph for Tim and Nick is the green line, which is the Auston Matthews effect, keeps rising until they lose Matthews via the auction, so it drops significantly. And because Matthews produces mostly goals, so that's why you see the spread here between the scoring and the grit categories for the Wanderers. And you can see that in their case you can see some relation between their league position and the contribution by their draft picks, and most significantly Auston Matthews, of course. So they had their best years in the league during his peak for their team. And the last team in this group is another team from the Patrick division, and is the Quebec Ramparts. And here we see a team which has been always one of the active teams in terms of trading, so they never kept a lot of their prospects around, but there are if you remember that they had a period of dominance in the league, and in this, especially towards the end of Fabrice's ownership, they were all in. So you see the natural decline of prospects and draft picks. The draft picks you don't see here, but basically young players were moved out in order to acquire more veterans for immediate help. And then Vince took over and rebuilt the team, maybe numerous times rebuilt. He has a tendency to trade a lot, so it's no surprise that not a lot of the prospects are still around to contribute for the Ramparts for their current seasons. So the next group are teams who have had some prospects pan out and relied on them for a longer term, And speaking of longer term, the first team here is the Cape Breton Oilers, a Jai's team, which I think is one of the teams that has had one of the more significant singles draftees that has contributed to their team, and this is Johnny Gaudreau. Johnny Gaudreau, I think, has 9 out of the 10 best scoring seasons for the Oilers franchise. And more recently, you see the uptick here with guys like William Eklund and Leo Carlson. So again, Jai has managed to build some young core, and hopefully for him he will be able to grow this and turn this into an improved league position over the next years. The next team here is the Hanover Turtles, Elliott's team, and you see here that especially the blue line can be observed how it's increasing, and this is the Jeremy Swayman effect. He has managed to find a elite starting goaltender via the draft, and is now this has contributed to him being one of the better teams over the last four seasons. And you see here that on average the scoring category for the Turtles is the lowest of the three, and I think they are one of few teams who have primarily drafted for grit, or more for grit than scoring, which is one of the tendencies that we have observed over the years for Elliott. But and for him, in terms of individual contributors, guys like Jason Zucker and Josh Anderson have been one of the main guys, especially Josh Anderson. During his best years, he was a multi-cat contributor. Next is another Smythe team, and another team that has relied on grit, or drafted for grit, or maybe Clint didn't draft for grit, but this is what he found in the draft. And you see that the red line is more or less above the green line for most of the seasons, and this is because of guys like Darnell Nurse, Cody Ceci, and Patrick Maroon, who are all Mighty Camels draft picks. And more recently, not more recently, but I wanted to say previously about the blue line here, that it was mostly due to contributions from Eddie Wack, which is another name that like blast from the past, we mostly forgot about this. And the last team in this group is the Hamilton Tigers, and you see more or less the first team who has had some sustained contribution from skaters and rising through the years. But more interesting for me in Cam's picture is that he seems to have a 3-year cycle of making a good run in the league, and each third season he has managed to put a very good season together. But this time he dropped pretty low, so he either breaks this cycle of 3-year strong performance, or he has a huge bounce back in the coming season. We'll see which one of the two we will see. And for Cam, the main contributors have been Clayton Keller and now Nick Suzuki, and maybe the longest serving in terms of the grid category, Braden McNabb, who has been like a staple for their franchise. Next we have the Mush Middle group, which is more or less named after my team, or my impression of my drafting performance, that is very much average. And you see the blue line here is very clearly to see this coincides with the Matt Murray era for the Steelers, and it's pretty correlated with the best run of in the league standings for my team. So basically having drafted a good starting goalie definitely helped my team be close to the top of the league throughout these seasons. And once Murray was gone and or failed to be a starter any longer, we dipped back to mediocrity. And in terms of single contributors, the best for the Steelers have been Jake Gensel and Mika Zibanejad for the years he has been part of the Steelers team. And next here in the middle group are the Upper Canada Patriots. The blue line here spikes a lot and also coincides with the period that the Patriots were the strongest. And most of you might remember, as we saw in the last video, that they wrote Jordan Binnington to success in the year they won the UDL title. But actually Binnington isn't a Patriots draft pick. Jake Allen is. So most of this line here, the blue line, is Jake Allen, and Binnington is actually a Wolfsburg pick. And towards the last years, the uptick you see here in terms of skater contribution mostly is because of Nick Robertson and Rupe Hintz, so the dynamic Dallas duo that Jeremy employs. And the next team here is, I would say, it's a Trent Buckler for the Chilliwack Royals. So look, and you see here he managed, you know, with him it's more or less about McDavid, and some of McDavid's best years, as you see the green line, have actually been some of the Royals' worst years in terms of regular season standings. And the blue line here is mostly John Gibson. So even finding a good, or one of the presumably good goaltenders in your draft or in the draft, and the best forward in the league, it still doesn't equal success. But on the other side, on the flip side, in the last few years, Luke has managed to put together a very strong team. And even though the contribution by his draft picks have been lower, it's basically that shows that even hitting home runs in the draft doesn't automatically means a success. You have to put a lot of pieces together to really have success. And on the next team is the Grizzly Adams team, James, and he has had a few years of rebuild and is now shooting up in the standings with some core guys that he managed to draft, like Kirill Kaprizov, Quinn Hughes, and Noah Dobson, and he will again be building on this core towards or hoping to maintain his status for the next few years as a contending team. And we go to the next group, which are like the second from before the top. The prospects are nice. So the teams that have managed to find pretty good prospects, and the first team in this group are the Kansas City Scouts. And you see here again that Andrew managed to build quite a good core. That actually here is Leon Draisaitl, and also Timo Meier is one of the core contributors for the Scouts. So they put together quite a good team, and after a few years they managed to also supplement it with enough to make the Scouts one of the better teams in the league and for an extended run. So I don't know if they are now heading for a rebuild or retool or will keep contending, but Andrew has done a good job with his prospects. And right next to Andrew is the maybe the other, or the biggest powerhouse team over the last few years. It's Mark and the Las Vegas Ice Dice. And for me, this picture is how I would imagine an all-in looks like. So he built some core with good drafting, and then he was competitive, and then he started trading away younger other pieces in order to acquire the best team possible for the cup runs or the run at the cup, which he managed to achieve this season. And now I would imagine that both graphs will flip, so the yellow will go down and all the draftees will start going up once he accumulates more draft capital. And the other two teams in this group are actually pretty much the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of standings and success. So the Halifax Citadels are the only team that has managed to crack the 60% scoring contribution by their own draft picks, and despite that they have had limited success in terms of standings, and they have had guys, especially for this 60% here, the peak. They were Nathan McKinnon, Sebastian Aho, and Zach Wierenski were part of that team. And more recently, the main guy for them is Brady Tkachuk. But still, it's been difficult, and Drew is now building up the team in order to achieve some sustained success in the league standings for the first time for this team. And in more or less similar situation is the Orlando Solar Bears team. The difference here is that they have managed to find a star goaltender in Thatcher Demko, which has helped them have some better results over the last few seasons. And also Woe and Kakkonen in terms of goalies that have drafted and made it to the NHL by drafted by the Solar Bears. So they have been good with goalies, and in terms of skaters, they have Mitch Marner and Robert Thomas as the main contributors. But the Orlando team and Will are another team that are looking to have a continued run as a playoff team in the UDL. And the last group I've called the My Precious group. So and I maybe could have put also the GIF, but I decided to skip the GIFs for this time. And here these are the teams that have relied most on their draft picks and have been also probably more patient than others. And the first is the Red Bull team, so Brad. And naturally, Bratz is the first team who has managed to have seasons with self-sufficient goalie. So he has had all the goalie points in a given season, even two of them, by his own draftees. And this was the tandem of Freddie Andersen and Jussi Saros for Brad. And he has had also Shestyorkin came in for him, and he was traded away. So that's why the blue line drops like this. But you see the yellow line it's very hard to correlate between the draftees. So basically very cardiac performance by the Red Bull team. So it's not like a guarantee or any formula that you find the goalies and great success happens. It's not like this. The next team in this group are the Kamloops Blazers and Greg. This is one of the teams that you can see the steady build of his team core through the draft, and you can actually see a continuous upward trend in terms of more reliance on his own draft picks. He has also had strong goalie flavor with guys like Blackwood and Logan Thompson, and now more recently Joey Decourt. And on the skaters, Braden Point, Tim Stutzle, Seth Jarvis, Patrick Laine, Seth Jones, pretty big group of players that have been drafted and developed by the Blazers, and hopefully for Greg he will manage to turn this into more sustained success. And the other team that is more or less similar in terms of trends in like building up his core is the Brooklyn Aces. Mike pretty much built up a solid core of skaters. Around 50% of his skater contribution comes from his own draftees, and more recently he has had very good success with the goalies, and this is the second team that has had 100% contribution from his own goalies, and this is the tandem of Jake Ottinger and Stuart Skinner for Mike, and he's, I think, slated to rely on them for this season too, and this could be one of the better, or should be one of the best tandems in the league. And naturally the first place goes, or the team with the most percentage relying on his own draft picks is the Odessa Jackalopes, on Mac's team. And unfortunately for Max, the trend for him increasing the draft percentage contribution is not related with his league standing. So basically his best seasons were before his own draft pick started contributing heavily, but he has also had goalie seasons with 100% goalie contribution by the group of Razig and Grubauer. Also, he has now Spencer Knight and UPL, so still very good goalies for Max. And in terms of skaters, his main guys have been Kyle Connor and Vinny Trocek, and on the back end, Jacob Truba has been a contributor for him for most of the years. And that's pretty much covers it all. Like I said, I delved into this database because I thought it was interesting, but actually didn't find any meaningful conclusion, and the only conclusion I have is that our league is one of the very tough one, and it doesn't take only one thing like a good drafting to be successful. You have to be good at drafting, good at trading, good at the auction, and I don't know, good at everything. And even that again is not guaranteed for success, because there will also be other teams that are very good at everything. So it basically thank you for making this league such a great one, and hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm looking forward to getting things rolling from next week and the auction and everything that goes with it. So bye bye.